This is one of Cluny the Scourge's Rome Total War online battles. I'm playing as Pontus this time. I've taken 6 units of archers deployed in loose formation before my phalanx line of 5 bronze shields. I have 1 onager catapult unit which I intend to use to provoke the enemy into attacking me, hopefully right into the front of my phalanxes. I have 2 units of heavy Pontic cavalry, 2 units of light Pontic cavalry. The difference is that though they're both javelin throwing units, light Pontic cavalry have the fast moving trait, while heavy Pontic cavalry can handle themselves better in a melee engagement. And I have 3 Cappadocian super heavy cavalry which I've hidden in the woods, ready to burst upon the flanks of the enemy once they attack. My Germanian opponent, Martin 24, has taken 4 units of chosen axemen, upgraded, 2 units of Knight Raiders, heavily upgraded, 4 chosen archers, which he's deployed in the rear, 1 unit of war dogs, and 3 units of Gothic cavalry. My plan is to use all those javelin throwing cavalry on skirmish mode to occupy the attention of his horsemen, to distract and harass. I intend to use archers and catapults to provoke my enemy into making a frontal assault against me before deploying my Cappadocians from their hidden position in the woods. Since my opponent's chosen archer warbands have superior range to my archers, I rush forward a little so that I can bring my bowman within range of his and prevent him from raining death upon me from a distance. Now he has neglected to deploy his chosen archers in loose formation, so they are going to take casualties unnecessarily. I now send my javelin throwing cavalry into position against the Knight Raiders, and maneuvering the light Pontic cavalry through the woods over on the right into the rear. Responding, my opponent sends 1 unit of Gothic cavalry after them. He will have a great deal of difficulty in catching them, since those light cavalry have the fast moving trait, and so already my opponent is unnecessarily dividing his horsemen and wasting resources which he needs for the main battle in the centre here. Now my archers and catapults are doing their work, as you can see. He blunders by sending 1 unit of Knight Raiders out by itself to outflank me. In the face of an entire army, they become terrified by the numbers facing them and they rout almost instantly. My opponent unleashes his war dogs before the infantry battle has begun proper, which is when they're needed for their morale reducing frightened by dogs effect, and he does so into the face of a phalanx. My sarissas skewer them and turn them into dog shish kebabs. Here are those Gothic cavalry that my opponent sent away on the right, chasing after the Pontic light cavalry. The armour on those Gothic horsemen, they're the best cavalry of any barbarian faction, is giving them complete protection against the javelins that the Pontic light cavalry are throwing as they flee. I'm inflicting no casualties at all there as far as I can tell. He shouldn't really be able to catch me, but I'm not paying any attention at all here, which is what the skirmish mode is for on these units as far as I'm concerned. You simply set it on and then leave them to do their thing so that they won't be harmed. And unfortunately the Gothic cavalry do catch them once they become tangled up on these trees and slow down up against the red borderline of the battlefield. However, the destruction of 1 Pontic light cavalry unit is well worth the cost in denarii as far as I'm concerned, if it means distracting the attention of a whole unit of Gothic cavalry. Here we see what happened with my Pontic heavy cavalry during that same time, throwing javelins at the Knight Raiders, holding their attention, and luring them away towards my Cappadocian horsemen who are waiting hidden in the woods still. Once I brought them where I want them, I send 1 unit of Pontic cavalry around to strike them in the rear, hit them in the front with a second in a rather neat sandwiching manoeuvre, as you can see here, and I decide that it's time, as events are unfolding in the centre, to bring the Cappadocians out. I don't need them to destroy that Knight Raider unit, certainly, they're doomed already. However, my opponent's main error in this battle was permitting his cavalry to become divided and too far separated from the main engagement where they were most needed. I certainly don't intend to do the same thing, so it's time to get those Cappadocians into the thick of things. My opponent has sent 1 unit of Gothic cavalry swinging around the flank. I defend against a possible strike against my catapults by refusing one of my phalanx units into a long thin line, suitable for protection from the front against cavalry. As it turns out, they aren't needed because my opponent has allowed his Gothic cavalry to become separated from the main battle on a wild goose chase after a single unit of skirmishing archers. My opponent launches a frontal attack with his chosen axeman against a phalanx in a long thin line rather than in an efficient fighting block. Now here's that unit of Gothic cavalry I just mentioned. Look at how far my opponent is allowing them to race away from the main battle, pursuing a target of no importance. He had 3 strong units of horsemen in this battle and he completely misused them. He should have massed his cavalry, he should have deployed his infantry in thicker, denser fighting blocks, he should have manoeuvred around my flanks instead of making a frontal attack, he should have ignored my javelin throwing cavalry. He should have waited to use his war dogs until his infantry were already engaged. Indeed, this battle is primarily of interest for the many mistakes which my opponent made. Mistakes make for a good illumination of tactical points, and it's interesting how they resulted in the battle unfolding almost precisely as I had originally planned. Normally I find that the opening plan which I formed before the battle began is discarded very quickly indeed, as tactical events call for adaptation and improvisation, but not when your opponent blunders repeatedly. And so, as you've seen, my horsemen were more or less at liberty to make mass strikes against the opponent's rear and to mop up the last of his infantry, and now finally his general's unit, the third and final Gothic cavalry and the only one that I actually had to fight during this battle. The combat bonus for fighting in snow that the Germanians as barbarian troops were receiving throughout this battle was to no avail to them in the face of superior Pontic maneuvers.